What is a motion for default judgment? A motion for default judgment is a formal request that one party makes to the court, asking the judge to issue a judgment in their favor because the other party has failed to respond or defend themselves in the case. In simple terms, it is saying to the judge, "The other side didn't show up or didn't answer, so please decide the case in my favor." This concept exists in both federal and state courts in the United States and is regulated by procedural rules. In federal courts, it is mainly found in Rule 55 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The rule establishes that if a defendant does not file an answer or otherwise defend against a complaint within the required time, the plaintiff can ask the court clerk or the judge to enter a default judgment. A little history. The idea of default judgments comes from English common law, where courts sought to avoid delays and prevent defendants from stalling cases by ignoring them. U.S. courts adopted this principle, making it a way to move cases forward efficiently and ensure that parties take their procedural duties seriously. When does a motion for default judgment apply? Usually in situations where the defendant does not file an answer within the legally established period, often 20 or 30 days depending on the jurisdiction, fails to appear at hearings or otherwise participate in the case, ignores court orders to respond or take certain procedural steps. For example, suppose a landlord sues a tenant for unpaid rent. The tenant is properly served with the lawsuit but never files an answer and never appears in court. The landlord can then file a motion for default judgment, asking the court to award the amount of unpaid rent, plus possible fees or damages, since the tenant failed to defend themselves. It is important to note that courts do not automatically grant default judgments. Judges usually check that the defendant was properly served with notice of the lawsuit. The deadlines to respond have clearly expired. The requested judgment is supported by evidence and not excessive. There is also the possibility of setting aside a default judgment. If the defendant later shows up and can prove a valid excuse, such as not being properly notified or having a strong defense, courts may reopen the case to ensure fairness. This reflects the balance between efficiency and protecting the right to a fair trial. Another curiosity is that in some courts, clerks, not judges, can enter default judgments for certain straightforward claims, like fixed sums of money. But more complex requests usually require the judge's review. In short, a motion for default judgment is a powerful procedural tool that allows the court to resolve a case when one party fails to participate, ensuring efficiency while also maintaining safeguards for fairness. Up above, I left you more videos so you can keep learning law. Don't forget to like and subscribe.